the two main parties are in this trap now of nothing's going to change in terms of taxation, and nothing going to change in terms of public spending, and that cannot be right. Looking at the public finances, looking at how things are going to evolve over the next parliament. And Jack is completely right when he said in previous answer, the British public are not stupid. The British public know that actually that's not quite right.
Let's talk about honesty in the campaign, which has been an issue this week, of course, because of the tax furore which has been bubbling. But today, it's sort of grown in terms of importance. The Institute for Government think tank is warning that huge problems lie ahead for the next government, and these problems are perhaps not really being considered in full. They highlight underperforming public services, strained public finances, a fragile civil service, and tensions within the Union of the United Kingdom. Jack, do you feel like we're getting honesty from the main party leaders, especially?
Look, I mean, it's fascinating. So the IFG report this morning, I spoke at a Resolution Foundation event on Wednesday, which was looking again at the state of the public finances, and I think. Well, I suppose, when we were thinking about sort of covering this topic this morning, the issue is, yes, of course, people should be honest, but can we, as the voting public, can we respond, and can the media respond appropriately to that honesty, to that levelling? Because the fact is, we all parties, and certainly the two main parties, are in this trap now of nothing's going to change in terms of taxation, and nothing going to change in terms of public spending, and that cannot be right. Looking at the public finances, looking at how things are going to evolve over the next parliament. And Jack is completely right when he said in previous answer, the British public are not stupid. The British public know that actually that's not quite right, and that actually better off if somebody said, here are the principles and the basis on which I will make my decisions about economic policy and fiscal policy, and everything else. But I don't know. And yet, this morning, as I say, ministers are forced to defend what's very difficult from Downing Street. Or you were pushing, Callum, again, I think the Labour shadow minister about taxes and everything else. And he's obviously got a brief which is, do not let the side down, do not say anything about any kind of hint of any extra taxes. And so we'll carry on like this for just under a month, and then whoever gets elected is going to be sort of joining the Treasury, presented with the numbers, and then have some difficult decisions. And everyone will say, well, hang on a second, you didn't say this during the election campaign. But is that because, if you are honest about it, that means that you're damaging your party brand and people aren't going to vote for it?
Jack, what do you make of the kind of honesty issue that is underpinning so much of the conversation, particularly around the tax furore that Nicky mentions there, that we've been discussing throughout the week and throughout the morning? I just wonder if it feels like we're getting the reality on what is going to happen after this election and the difficulties that everyone will still face.
I have to say, and I'm quite disappointed in many ways, but I think it is true that the public will probably not be making a choice on the 4th of July based on who they think has got more honesty and integrity, because they have kind of given up on most politicians on that front, and I think that's why people like Farage and others do well, because instead of a debate about honesty and integrity, it becomes a debate about clear speaking versus not clear speaking, or something along those lines. So I think that's unfortunate. I think if there was more talk during the campaign, and critically before the campaign, about values, I think, as Nicky says, people don't expect absolute cast iron guarantees on taxes to be held after an election, but I think they would like to know what the principles will be that you will adopt, and some examples of how those principles might work in practice. And I hope the Labour manifesto is going to be clearer on that than we have been maybe recently. I think they're a little bit too cautious. I think we could be clearer on the values that will govern our financial decisions, even if they are tough decisions to make. So I think all of that is important. I actually watched a really interesting video last night of I think it was a question time with David Dimbleby. Tony Blair one-on-one with an audience, I think it was 1997, And it was remarkable how many times he said no and argued with the audience member rather than just glossing over something or saying sort of yes in a vague way that he could get round at a later date. It seemed like a different world altogether. I don't mean necessarily because of the personalities, but a world where politicians occasionally argued with the public rather than just tried to kind of smooth over everything. I mean, I'd love to get. I'd love a bit of that, you know. I think people should sometimes just say no and justify saying no, and it would be clearer. People could make their judgments. I think sometimes people vote for you even if they disagree with you, because they think they know where you stand.
It's interesting. Jonathan from Glossop has just WhatsApp saying maybe we get the government we deserve. If any candidates said they were going to put taxes up, they wouldn't be elected, even though we all know that tax rises are actually needed. Interesting point from Jonathan. Let's turn our attention to that. Well, it's the second set piece TV election debate tonight. So we had Starmer versus Sunak. This time, 7 politicians are taking to the floor. So they're going to be representing the Conservatives, Labour, Liberal Democrats, SNP, Green Party, Reform UK and Plaid Cymru. I'm wondering, Nicky, does this format work? As an audience member, as a voter, what do we actually learn in a 7-way debate?
Well, probably very little in terms of sort of policy announcements. I guess it is all about a lot of it's about personality. It's about how you handle yourself, I guess, as a participant, and I think perhaps for audience members who haven't seen politicians up close, if you like, national politicians, it's interesting to see the body language, the way it works. I guess I mean, look, I think with Penny Mordaunt for the Conservatives tonight. I mean, Penny is a very strong performer. She's a strong campaigner, and I think, I mean, Jack's right, she's got a tough gig today, but she will be, I would suspect, knowing Penny, phenomenally just straightforward and honest, because that is the way that she is. The issue is going to be, I suppose, how the 7, what you often get in these 7-way debates is who gangs up on everybody else.
Yes.
And so actually, if it's going to be 5 on 2 or 4 on 3, or, you know, it's the dynamics. I mean, that was the thing from the head-to-head debate on Tuesday night, which I have to say I didn't watch, and I probably won't watch tonight, to be honest with you.